Aloha. I've been reading from this book, Simply A Course in Miracles by Allowah Lani. That's my pen name. This is on Amazon, this book, Simply A Course in Miracles. I've been reading from the middle of the book where I brought in quotes and sayings from some of the great teachers and mystics and theologians, philosophers of the past, mainly 2,000 years. Yesterday I did a video on Mayor Baba, who was a great guru. He called himself the avatar of the age. And he actually had a fairly big impact on the counterculture flower children movement in the 60s. And I wanted to bring him in again today because today we're going to be talking about Baba Ram Dass. And if you don't know about Ram Dass is definitely someone to know about. He also was a very, very influential person in the world of spirituality, especially bridging the world, so to speak. He followed a teacher, a guru in India named Neem Karoli Baba. I will talk about him in a moment. And that was for the last 50 years of his life. Most of his life, he followed this guru, and he really offered quite a lot of great teachings to the world on this path that he was following. It was a bhakti yoga path mainly. Bhakti means devotion. It was a devotional path. He was very devoted to his guru, Neem Karoli Baba. I'll just tell you a little bit about Ram Dass as it particularly pertains to what we're talking about today. So he was born in 1931. He went to Stanford, then he went to Harvard. He became a Harvard professor in the psychology department. He actually was working closely with a guy named, you probably heard of him, Dr. Timothy Leary, who was a little bit older than him. Dr. Leary famously went to Mexico. There was a guy named Gordon Wasson who went, I think, before Leary and met a Mexican shamaness named Maria Sabina and took magic mushrooms, psilocybin mushrooms, with her in a ceremonial way. And then Gordon Wasson was like in Time magazine, and it became a big thing. Timothy Leary went also, and he tried magic mushrooms. He famously said that he learned more about his mind in the 5 hours, maybe 15 hours after taking magic mushrooms than he had in the 15 years previously of studying psychology, if that tells you anything. And then he got a grant or permission at Harvard to study psilocybin. This was before psychedelics were made Schedule 1. They were made illegal in the United States. So he and Dr. Alpert, Ram Dass, his real name is Richard Alpert, Dr. Richard Alpert. So Leary and Alpert began to study psilocybin. They actually had a German born research assistant named Ralph Metzner, who also was very important in that. And they began in the early 60s and they did their research. And then they gave psilocybin to an undergraduate, which was something they weren't supposed to do. They got ratted out for that. They were forced to resign from Harvard. It was a big deal that they were basically kicked out of Harvard. But they continued to do their research. And then not too long in the early 60s, first it was psilocybin, and then LSD became widely used, especially by the counterculture movement, because what happened was people, it might have been just one person who did it first, but soon people were making LSD in their basements, and they were making very, very many doses of it and spreading it around. So it got out there. And so much so that it wasn't too long before the government stepped in and made it illegal. But Dr. Alpert, he was finding LSD to be very amazing, and at the same time he had doubts about it, and he began to think there's got to be more than LSD. LSD, it brings you into these amazing awareness and insights and high spiritual, other dimensions and high spiritual states and ecstatic states. But then you come back and you're back in your ego again. So what good is that? you have to keep using LSD, and LSD is like an 8-hour trip. Is that even useful for many people to have to do that? He ended up reading what Meher Baba wrote. Remember, I talked about that pamphlet that Meher Baba got disseminated in the U.S., which is called God in a Drug. I should actually put a link to that. Maybe I'll put a link to that because it is online, and you can read that pamphlet that Meher Baba disseminated in the United States. He was in India, and he got this sent to the United States and spread around. Ram Dass read it, or Dr. Richard Alpert read it. I guess he wasn't a doctor at that point anymore. Richard Alpert read it. And he wrote to Meher Baba, and he said, I think you might know something. And basically Meher Baba said to him something like, the only value that LSD has really is to bring someone like you to me. Because remember, Meher Baba saw himself as the avatar of the age. He was like Jesus, essentially, in the 20th century. And he was like, the only value it really has is to bring someone like yourself to me. That's a bold statement. But Richard Alpert, based on that and other things, began to think, maybe the yogis in India really know something, and so I need to go to India. So I think in 1967, this is around the time the Beatles went to India, by the way, to study meditation with Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, who was the guy that started TM, Transcendental Meditation. So Ram Dass, or Richard Alpert, went around the same time. He met a young guy there from California who had been there for several years. His name is Bhagavan Das. He's still around. Bhagavan Das is still alive today. Richard Alpert, Ram Dass, died in 2019. So he lived a good, pretty long, 86 years, 87 years. But anyway, so he met Bhagavan Das. Bhagavan Das took him to meet Neem Karoli Baba. At first, Richard Alpert was like, I don't need no gurus. I'm not going to bow to this guy, But then Neem Karoli Baba, without going too much into the story, Neem Karoli Baba convinced him that he was legit. He was the real deal. And Richard Alpert ultimately, found his guru, and he full prostration. And Neem Karoli Baba gave him the name Ram Das, which means servant of Ram, and you could say servant of God. Ram is just a name for God in India, Hinduism. There's Rama, there's Krishna, there's other names, many deities actually, many names for God, gods and goddesses, and both Rama and Krishna are considered to be incarnations or avatars of Vishnu. We don't have to go that much into that. This is going to be a long video. Sorry about that. But anyway, Neem Karoli Baba basically, I don't want to tell this whole story, but basically Neem Karoli Baba showed Ram Dass that you do not necessarily need LSD, but he said to him, you can take LSD, but I would recommend it under certain conditions, right? So basically Neem Karoli Baba was saying, LSD is not the highest, but it could be helpful, and especially if used under certain conditions. So don't use it just recreationally, but use it sacramentally, right? Use it in a sacramental way, and if you do, it could be helpful to you. So anyway, Then Ram Dass wrote in 1971, he came out with this book called Be Here Now, which actually became a very, very influential book. And in the book, he tells his story up until that point. It's a very good book. I think it's a classic. It really is a classic of world spirituality. It's worth checking out. Be Here Now. And then later, like 40 years later, he wrote Be Love Now. So anyway, I'm going to read some quotes from Ram Dass. We'll just show how they're relevant to A Course in Miracles and how much similar they are. Just like what Mayor Baba was saying, the video I did yesterday, there's so much there that's just basically the same as what A Course in Miracles is teaching. So here's some things that Ram Dass said. We're all just walking each other home. We're all just walking each other home. And this is exactly what the Course is saying, is that when I see you as in the light, when I see you as perfect, no matter what you're doing or no matter what outrageous things you seem to be doing, I just think, yeah, but you're the same as me. You are the love. You may be doing something that seems to be unloving, but that's just a mistake that will be corrected, right? And I see you just as I want to be seen. I want to be seen also in the highest light. I want to be seen as the loving being that I truly am. And whenever someone doesn't see me that way, I realize that it must be because I'm not being loving myself in some respects, right? And being loving doesn't mean how you act, but it's also how you speak and how you think, right? So we're all just walking each other home. We're all just mirroring back to each other, what our progress is on the journey home. And if someone is mirroring back to you something you don't like, it means that it usually means that's something for you to look at, that there's something that you are maybe resisting seeing within yourself that needs to be shifted, that needs to be corrected. All right, going on. Your problem is you're too busy holding on to your unworthiness. Right? You're looking at the glass half empty. You're seeing all the problems with yourself, and you're not looking at what is really true, which is that you are just love. But you're looking at all the problems, and you're not being grateful for what is. You're not being present. That doesn't matter whatever happened in the past or whatever you think you are. That does not matter at all. Be here now, and you will see that it's all love. Something like that. All right, going on. Only that in you, which is me, can hear what I'm saying. Only that in you, which is me, can hear what I'm saying. That's a deep one, right? Only that in you, which is me, can hear what I'm saying. You can only hear the truth when you are in that place of truth and I am in that place of truth. Right? When we're both in that place of truth, we can hear it. We know it. It makes perfect sense. But when we get out of that, then we get into conflict and we get into attack mode. Next one. Treat everyone you meet as if they are God in drag. This is a great one. Treat everyone you meet as if they're God in drag. Right? Everyone is God in drag. Everyone is essentially God. Or if you don't like to say that, you could say everyone is a being of love. Everyone is love. It may not look like that, right? That's the drag. That's the surface appearance. But deep down, we are all that, right? So treat everyone you meet everyone you meet in that way, that they are God. Start with that premise. They are the love. If anything else that doesn't look like that, disregard that. It's not important. I would like my life to be a statement of love and compassion. And where it isn't, that's where my work lies. I'll read it again. I would like my life to be a statement of love and compassion, and where it isn't, that's where my work lies. So wherever I see that I'm falling short of being the loving and compassionate and forgiving being that I really want to be, that's what I need to work on, right? That's what I will work on. We're here to awaken from the illusion of separateness. We're here to awaken from the illusion of separateness. That's exactly what the Course says as well, right? That's our only purpose. That's our only function, is to awaken. If through forgiveness, through the process of forgiveness, we awaken from the dream of our separateness, that we are not separate, that we are all one in that love. The spiritual journey is individual, highly personal. It can't be organized or regulated. It isn't true that everyone should follow one path. Listen to your own truth. Okay, so this is also what the Course says. Everyone's atonement process is going to be different. You have to tune in to what is true for you, not what is true for someone else. Krishna says the same thing in the Bhagavad Gita. Don't do someone else's dharma. You got to do your own dharma. You have to follow your own inner guidance and your own inner path, your own path. Don't look to others for what you need to do, right? For what is right for someone else might not be right for you. So don't be afraid to go your own way. You can go your own way. Everything changes once we identify with being the witness to the story instead of the actor in it. Everything changes once we identify with being the witness to the story instead of the actor in it. So we start going into that witness consciousness. We start observing rather than judging, right? Fire the judge and hire the witness, right? Let's not say stop completely. We open to letting go of our judgments, and we start to just observe, calmly observe, without judgment. And that changes everything. That's a game changer. It's a life changer. A feeling of aversion or attachment towards something is your clue that there's work to be done. This is a great one too. A feeling of aversion or attachment towards something is your clue that there's work to be done. If you're hankering after anything or you're pushing anything away, you're resisting something, or you're overly attached to something, that means that's something you need to look at, right? There's work. There's some inner work. You need to look at why that is, and see if you can just step back and again be the witness. Say, who is it that is pushing this away? Why am I pushing it away? What fear is there? Right? What am I afraid of? Who am I to judge? Who am I to judge? What am I afraid of? All right. The game is not about becoming somebody, it's about becoming nobody. But you've got to be somebody before you can be nobody. This is a great one. This is not something Jesus says in the Course. He doesn't say you have to be somebody before you can be nobody. But I think that's kind of assumed. The first part is in the Course, right? You have to realize you're nobody. You're not a body, right? Right? You're not an ego. Now, but what about the second part? You've got to be somebody before you can be nobody. I think that's kind of assumed in the Course, because if you're doing the Course, you've already tried being a somebody, and that has not worked, right? That's why you're doing the Course, because you tried to be a somebody, but now you're opening to being a nobody. You realize being a somebody is not what you thought it was going to be. All right, last one, be here now. That's the whole thing right there, is to be, the gift of presence. It's the only thing. Eternity is here and now. It's nowhere else. It can only be here and now. So to be here now is to be fully present, is to be without regrets, without longing for the past, without feeling sinful for things you've done in the past. And it's not about being here now is not projecting onto the future that things are going to be better in the future than they are now. No, you have to accept that now is as good as it gets. This is as good as it gets, right? This moment. It's fantasy and illusion to think that things are somehow going to be better at some other point in time, or that they could be worse. Everything is really, things have never changed. This moment is no different than any other moment. Someone might say it is. Someone might say, well, the times are really tough right now, and we're in for dramatic shift, and that may be true on a certain level, right? But in reality, things have not changed. Things change on the surface for sure, but the undying truth, the eternal truth, doesn't seem to change, right? And that's something that all of us have to decide for ourselves if that's true or not. I wouldn't. That's just everything here is just an invitation to looking more deeply at that idea. It's not to say that you have to believe it, and it's not about belief. It's about knowing. So be here now, be loved now. That's not a command. That's just an invitation, right? So thank you for listening. Thank you, Ram Dass, Mayor Baba, all the great teachers who said some good stuff and gave us something to work with. All right, we'll see you again soon. Next time, I think I might, it's not in the book, but I think I would like to do like Ramana Maharshi and Nisargadatta. And one of these days I'm going to do classic rock. Classic rock songs from 65 to 70 when the chorus was really being dictated by Helen, and some things in classic rock that that are very much in line with the Course in Miracles. So stay tuned for more, and thanks for listening. I would always love your comments and feedback, and see you soon. Bye-bye.